I want you to expound on your statement that schools will provide continuous training on IEP development, and then also tell me what other specific plans of action you have taken previously to either A, ensure proper placement of these students, or B, to advance their student achievement as well.
As a superintendent, I've done, I grade myself about a D- in the first 2 years. And I'm correcting that as we speak. Our special ed department has not operated at optimum because there has been no accountability. We have been the poster child for suing special ed department. I knew that when I walked in. When you walk into grocery stores in the mall and you see signs that say, "Does your child attend Montgomery Public Schools? Are they in special education? Have they been suspended? If so, call this law firm." Okay? That tells you that you've got some issues. So about 6 months ago, I know that was something that I had to pay attention to as a superintendent. And the reason we have issues, sir, is because there has been a lack of oversight and accountability. If I'm a teacher and I'm sitting there and I've been a special education teacher, and I fill out do an IEP and I don't follow it, and there are no consequences for me not following it, and believe me, the reason I'm on it now is because we were getting sued by everybody. And the way that we would handle them, because it'd be so much, we were settling cases. The children wasn't getting anything, but the attorneys that were suing was getting money. And I said, enough of this. I'm not going to do this anymore. But when we were getting sued, the person that was sitting in the boardroom giving the reason we were being sued was the superintendent. I said, no way. I'm going to have the teacher here. I'm going to have the special ed director here. And this stuff didn't stop. Because if you're going to mess up, it's going to touch you. So we're trying to bring more accountability in the way we develop an IEP, how we follow an IEP, and work with parents. You have to have a good working communication with parents. IEP may change 3 weeks from now. You may need to make some modifications. So it's a communication process, it's an accountability process. And let me say this too, because we've got good people that work in our special ed department that really care. But you're always defined by the ones who do the least. And that's the case in everywhere. So I would make sure the accountability place is there and that we have functional IEPs, that our people know how to, number one, sit down and write an appropriate IEP and how to follow it and implement it.
How hard are you willing to fight for the middle-class parents whenever they tell you what they really want?
Again, my priority, unless the board directs me otherwise, if I'm fortunate enough to be offered this position, is to optimize the services that we're providing children now. And I know that conversation has to happen with families that are left us. I don't know what venue really, and I might need the board's direction. What venue do you use to talk to these parents? Do you go to the neighborhoods? Do you call a meeting for all the parents who have left us and say, come back and tell us what you want? I just don't know how to go about that. And I would need the board's direction on even having a venue to see what they wanted. I think I know what all parents want. I really do. Again, and I don't want to be redundant, but I think, when parents drop their kids off to school, they want to know they're going to be safe. And when they pick them up, they're going to be in the same place. They're not going to be hurt. They're not going to get a call saying they got a broken bone unless in an accident. Parents want their kids to be with teachers that love them and in schools that are nurturing. And if you got those two issues, then you're not going to get most of these parents back. But based on the snapshot that I saw today, and I certainly will, I'm not in a position to evaluate schools in East Baton Rouge Parish based on the limited time I've been in. But based on what I know about just teachers in general, I know those things are happening in more schools in East Baton Rouge and in every major city than a lot of parents even know about, because they don't take the time to go back to the schools to look at them and see what's going on.
You said that the LEAP test should not overshadow a child's yearly performance, and I was hoping you could expand on that by A, how would you change our current LEAP testing if you could? And then B, assuming you have a 7-member board support, which I think you would, how far would you be willing to fight the legislature and the Bessie board to change our current system?
Well, I think any snapshot assessment. What a child can do with this and bubble on a piece of paper should not be the sole determinant of whether a child progress to the next grade or not. I just don't believe that. Okay? I think this should count for something, but we teach children more than how to fill in the bubble, the right bubble. So I would like to see again, I think I said this earlier, but I would like to see a combination of the I-League accounting for X%, and I'm not sure what that is. It would have to be a conversation with staff. But X% of a grade and the child's participation and efforts that they put in class and achievement that they've met all year in that class count for the great majority of it. I think it needs to count for something. Now, as far as if I had several members of the board that wanted to fight for that, I think the board really has to. And when you got 12 members on the board, it's very important. I work with 12 members in Caddo, and it's very important that you really have a very succinct list of what your priorities are. Now, do you want the superintendent to be fighting the State Department over the league, or do you want them in schools that need a higher challenge? That's what the board has to tell me, okay?
With students being incarcerated. Now, my colleague here to the right of me has incarcerated students that the test scores reflect on his schools, which they never attend. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe what goes on in Montgomery up there? If you have any
same thing. If they're incarcerated, we test them. And, you know, again, that's just the rules that we have to play by. Some of these kids are, and I don't have a big problem with that, okay? I know it hurts accountability, but, you know, the one thing that I want to stress, I try to stress as a superintendent, AYP is important. Yeah, it really is, but there are other things that are almost equally important. And we can't forget about children, and, you know, some of these kids that are incarcerated will get out, they've made a mistake. And we need to know how they did, along with some of the other things. So, you know, those are things that I know I can't change. It's kind of like the I-League. It depends on what the board wants me to do and focus my time on, and you know, I'm gonna do that. But you know, those are just the rules that we have, and I play by the rules.
There are very numerous grants that are available to the school system and students. What active role would you play in acquiring most a lot of these grants?
If we don't have a grant writer, I'd sure like to hire the best one I can find. Because quite frankly, the superintendent doesn't have time to write grants. Okay? You hire someone that can find the grants, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Either you pay them on a salary, or you pay them on a commission. But there are a lot of good grants. We were fortunate enough in my district to get to it. It certainly wasn't because of me. Maybe the second was because I had to interview with the governor before he awarded that grant. That was called the A+ College Readiness Grant, and that's to increase and enhance AP offerings in our district. But the other one was just due to one of the Director of Child Welfare and Attendance writing a Safe Schools Healthy Student Grant. There was a big grant that was awarded to it. But, you know, if we don't have a grant writer, I think that's the best thing that this board could invest in is a really good grant writer, because there are funding opportunities there.
And my final question, what are your thoughts on block schedule?
I like it. I like it, but let me just say this with a qualifier. It takes a lot of professional development. Again, I don't want to beat up on teachers because I love them. But if you got teachers that can't teach on a regular schedule, 55 minutes, if you give them 30 minutes of instruction, what makes you think if you go to 90, you're going to get more than 30? So, I mean, it just takes some professional development, and it takes some working with teachers. And it takes some monitoring to make sure that we go into these block schedules, that we got effective instruction going on, and children not losing time.